And so when we bought land at retail, we had to do something unique to the buildings. And one of the things that we did was created one of kind of a, what I'll call an employee-centric design. And that was really an exciting thing for us because that allowed us to be different compared to our competitors. It offered the HR director in our tenant firms the opportunity to attract employees and retain employees when it was very competitive for them. And our buildings really performed by absorbing quicker and having tenants renew by having amenities like bocce ball courts and basketball and citrus in the parking lot and even lactating stations in the women's restrooms for our childbearing age women.
Seems a little obvious, but I had never heard anybody express it before we prepared for the show, that you start with the HR department and say, what would make this a good place to work, help you attract people to work here, make people want to stay working here.
Right. It really came to a point where dealing with the CEOs and the chairmen of our companies that we were dealing with was obviously the right place to get a decision, but really from the feedback standpoint on developing a facility for a company, the HR director has huge pull. They're the people on the firing line trying to find that company's most strategic asset. That's the people that work there. So we in the development business and the construction and real estate delivery of corporate shelter need to deliver an asset that is unique and will work for that company's employee base.
Now, you and I have talked about this more than once, but reinvention is one of your mantras. What do you mean by reinventing yourself?
Yeah, I read a book just about 6-7 years ago called Blue Ocean Strategies by Kim. And it was impacting to me because one of the major themes of the book was trying to render your competition irrelevant, which is very difficult to do. In fact, it's kind of an arrogant thought, quite frankly, to think that you can take any field of business and take great competitors and render them irrelevant. But there is, in fact, a niche for all of us, no matter what our businesses are, that we can analyze our competition and for a very short while find blue water that nobody's in, because most of us battle it out in red, shark-infested, bloody waters, fighting over the same prospects and the same clients and the same pricing models. But if we can get out of that water, then it becomes a wonderful experience, and you get to enjoy that for a very short period of time, and then you have to reinvent yourself again.
So right now, what are some of the things that you're doing to reinvent your enterprise?
Yeah, let's see. As an example, back in 1979, when I was first in the business, we had an energy crisis in America.
I remember President Carter with his sweaters.
Yep, President Carter appointed the first energy secretary, didn't call them czars back then, and it was Schlesinger, and he said we couldn't put up holiday lights during the holidays because we were worried about the energy, so we developed a program to put active and passive solar systems in our industrial project and office park down in Laguna Niguel.
30 years ago.
30 years ago, and it became America's first solar-assisted business park.
That's
and as a result, gained national notoriety for that, absorbed quicker, and retained our tenants during a very difficult time.
Okay, and now what kind of things are you doing that's different?
Currently, we have a software that I am just really thrilled with. One of our employees up in my Portland office came up with a wonderful epiphany, really, about the fact that this carbon footprint that all of us put into the environment when we develop is not something that should just be used to the operating of a building through the LEED certification process, which is getting lights more efficiently, operating our HVAC systems more efficiently, but we should build them greener. Not just operate them green. And so our software actually takes the carbon footprint of a building before it's constructed and tells you who you should hire to reduce the carbon footprint by subcontractor, and then how to identify local sources for that particular subtrade, therefore promoting local spending and local hiring. And in this economy, where jobs and local revenue are the #1 thing on the minds of government, this software will revolutionize the way that we develop in the future. And we're rolling that out right now for its final round of investment, which will then put it as a platform on the internet.
Okay, we don't have a lot of time, but you have a couple of the things just mentioned that are different.
Yeah, we've got a couple of things. One is a construction technology that will allow us to build office and hotels and apartments in a factory environment. It's called Robotic Built Structures. It's all technology driven, building buildings
to use mass production techniques to build buildings, which now everything's like a job shop.
Just like they do in the auto industry.
Right.
And we can build it to a 1/16 of an inch, and
that's going to happen.
Precision. That's going to be happening next fall. And then we have a virtual receptionist technology that we have patented that is actually patent pending for eliminating the receptionist for small businesses, putting that particular person back to work in the office in a more productive role. You're greeted by a voice, and you see a television monitor that then greets you and tells you to be seated, and you watch a show on the firm you're actually visiting, and then
very different things.
Very different, and we have some facial recognition technologies coming.
There's one point I want you to make before we get to the end, because I want to give you 3 minutes to talk about a passion of yours that's very important, and that's simply location, location, location is what most people think is the most important thing in real estate, but to you, what is the most important thing?
It's timing, 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 Richard. It is all about the timing. Every site has its time. And so it's, especially in the time of a recession, we find ourselves with great projects and great locations with very poor timing.
We only have 2 minutes now, so let's talk about Saddleback Valley, something very important to you.
Yeah, I've been involved in Saddleback Church for many, many years, and my pastor, Rick Warren, is a remarkable man who is a great communicator with a great vision. He has something they call the Peace Plan. The PEACE is an acronym and stands for something that I'll share here, but it basically attacks the 5 global giants, which is a spiritual emptiness, corruption of our leadership, pandemic disease, poverty, and illiteracy. And so what we do is that we go into the villages of the world, whether it's here in Santa Ana or in Rwanda, and we empower the leadership of that community, men and women, to systemically have a long-term solution for conquering those dramas and traumas of life. And rather than just dropping money and time into a community, we're actually teaching them a sustainable way to conquer these things. And so, promoting reconciliation and educating servant leaders, assisting the poor, and caring for the sick, and educating the next generation.
And this isn't just 1 or 2 projects. I mean, the church has done what, tens, hundreds, thousands?
Well, there have been thousands of people that have gone abroad and worked here locally.
Most of them from Orange County.
Yeah, and we have 30,000 churches in the network that will grow to 300,000 churches in the next 10 years of all faiths that will be able to roll out this plan of caring for people at the village level where governments and NGOs have failed over the last 50 years.
Mostly third world.
Yeah, well, third world and in our backyard. You'd be surprised what's right here.
Yeah.
It's right here in our own community. And so it's an exciting thing, and I've got a great deal of pride of seeing the joy in people's hearts and lives as they change.
And this is something you two are hands-on involved with.
Yes.
And your family.
Yes, yeah, my family has been enjoying that too. I took my son to Rwanda with me about 3 years ago, and he's been back 3 times since. Yeah,
well, that's all the time we have, but we've covered a lot. It's an amazing story of your family in this community for 100 years, doing all these projects and the giving back that you're now doing through the Saddleback Valley Church and bringing your daughter into it, but you're still cool with your son if he doesn't want to be in it. Great story, great family. Very proud to have you as a guest on my show. Thank you for
Richard.
Being here today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Before we close the show, I'd like to remind our viewers that the Orange County Business Journal is holding its 10th annual Family-Owned Business Award Ceremony on November 19th at the Irvine Hyatt with keynote speaker Andrew Truitt of the Chick-fil-A restaurant chain family. So if you would like to attend this event and find other families like the Birtchers to be recognized for future shows, just register on our website, which is www.ocbj.com, or call 949-833-8373. It's really a fabulous event. There are not too many families like the Birtcher family, but there's a lot of amazing family-owned businesses in Orange County, and you'll see them at this event. The Cable Business Journal is brought to you by Cox Communications, your local cable operator, and the Orange County Business Journal. Thank you so much for joining us today, and once again, Mr. Brandy, enjoyed having you as a guest.
It's been a pleasure.